In this short presentation, I would like to introduce our business case, enterprise business case, and apply the recent emerging technology called AIOps to the IT management of the enterprise. I use the IBM product, Instana, Turbonomic, and Watson AIOps as an example. But the overall portfolio can be applied to the other vendors. For example, the Amazon, or Microsoft, and other vendors. Table of the contents. First of all, the business case. The business case is going to be the myflower.com is our retail company and to sell the products and the commercial packaged products. I will look into the AIOps from the 4 different perspectives. Number one, from the enterprise business context perspective, see how sophisticated the application and the enterprise landscape is, and what is the needs for the application performance monitoring and resource management. Number two, I will look at this from our MVP perspective, a simplified use case to see the architecture and the needs and to see how the process going. And after we see the system context and the MVP use case, we will look at how the Turbonomics, what kind of the approach, what kind of the offering and a service provided to the enterprise to resolve the application resource management problem. And after we have the application performance monitoring, application resource management, and the next slide is going to articulate what is the value proposition for the AIOps and how the AIOps resolve the problems and optimize the process. Okay, the business use case. The company name is called myflowers.com, and this is the fictional name. And assuming this is selling the flowers, goodies, and the cookies, wines, and the chocolate. And during the holidays and during the actually everyday businesses, particularly like Valentine's Day, Thanksgiving break, or the Christmas season, and people are shopping online for these kind of the goodies. And it is the business is across the United States, 45,000 plus zip codes in the United States, and potentially it could extend to global. For each target delivered data, with the very complex commercial packaged good fulfillment logic. What kind of key system involved is e-commerce system, enterprise service bus, and ERP for the order and fulfillment management system. And also there are number of microservice, for example, for the address, for the gift card, for the tax, and for the other reasons, and also other microservice, internal and external and enterprise need to be involved. So it's a pretty typical enterprise environment. And what is the pain points? Number one is the troubleshooting. So whenever there is a system problem, the system slow down, and or have anomaly data detected, can we resolve the problem on time without significant technical people involved? And that is the issue. And the second thing is about the cost optimization. With the cloud provision, every resource can be, most of the resource can be provisioned on demand. How can we provision the right resource and with the right time and the right amount, so that we do not over provision or under provision the resource? So that is a cost optimization. And what is the solution? So the solution for this kind of problem is no doubt is a AIOps problem. And first of all, business applications, including the traditional IT management application, for example, ServiceNow. Whenever I have the problem happened, the system slow down, anomaly detection, and I need to create a tickets, right? So ServiceNow is this kind of the work order management system for the IT management. And there are also need to have some automation. Automation, we need to have the detection, which is APM, an application performance monitoring. And also, after monitoring, we need to do the resource management. Allocate the new resource, scale out and scale in, and also after all the business processes on location, and then we need to look into are there any place we can optimize that through the big data and the data analytics. So AIOps come to the picture. And this presentation, we're step by step look into the value proposition, look into the architecture and the process of all these. Okay, first, the system context. Remember, this is a myflowers.com. This is an e-commerce company and they are the commercial packaged goodies. Okay, there's 3 different systems. Number 1 is the IBM WebSphere system that is hosted on IBM, assuming, and the cross availability zones. And also in the middle, that is Enterprise Service Bus. It is the IBM product called the App Connect over MQ, but it deployed on the AWS through the OpenShift. So this is a very typical deployment model right now. It's on the AWS, but WebSphere Commerce is on the IBM. And the backend, assuming this is the ERP system, it could be the SAP or the Oracle. It could be also on the AWS. So now, when we look at this system, number 1, the system is sophisticated, a lot of service involved, external service in yellow and internal service in the blue. It could be the address service, tax service, and the payment service or the gift card service, all those kind of things. And the core service is 3. So the number 1, their application level integration is sophisticated. And the number 2, in the system level, this is the hybrid cloud, including the IBM cloud, including the AWS cloud, and across the multiple zones. So the system level infrastructure and the virtual machine level, they're also complicated. So the question is, for this kind of sophisticated system, how can we monitor that? How can we troubleshooting that? Specifically, company does not have the group of the technical people and the line of business can directly handle that. So the answer is the APM, ARM with IT management, with the AI can resolve this problem. From IBM's brand, that is Instana, Turbonomic, and Watson and AIOps, and assuming the IT management using the ServiceNow. So now from the second perspective, we look into our simplified use case, the very foundational, and to see how exactly it is working. Okay, there are 2 diagrams. The first diagram is show the architecture. The second diagram is show the overall process. If you see the first diagram, we can see, okay, this is the environment with the clustering across the 2 availability zones on the cloud. There are the 4 instances instantiated, 1, 2, 3, 4, with the 2 available zone to handle the current payload and the current volume. And here have 2 services involved. One is CloudWatch and one is auto-scaling. CloudWatch plays the role of the application monitoring. They were monitored, in this case, matrix we set as the average CPU usage. We are monitoring that. And the auto-scaling is the play as the role of the application resource management. So whenever CloudWatch is monitoring that, if the average utilization is over 60%, we set up the threshold. Okay, then we need to inform, like send the alert to the auto-scaling group and then create 1 additional instance here. And whenever the average cloud usage is less than 25%, then probably we need to delete 1 instance so that we can save the cost and save the resource. So this is the idea behind the APM and ARM in the MVP situation, the minimum viable product. Of course, the metrics you can set up as a computing power. In here is the CPU. You can set up the memory, or you can set the network, or the other customer build a matrix. And in the bottom, this diagram is showing the process, overall process. As you can see, the Amazon instance EC2 is here. EC2 can scale out and scale in, and then the CloudWatch is detecting the EC2 situation. Whenever the threshold is met, and then send the alarm, and then the auto scaling is going to create one more instance. So this is the overall process. And then here, from the monitoring perspective, we are monitoring the system logs using the set up the metrics, and also meanwhile we can monitoring the API logs, which is the API connections. If you go to the previous diagram, there are two problems. One is the system problem, one is the API application level problem. So we both can monitor. Okay, now we look at the system context diagram. We look at the MVP, understand the basic logic for the ARM and APM. How does that work together? Now the question is raised. Okay, AWS have the CloudWatch and AWS have the auto scaling already resolved the problem. What's the difference? Why? What is the special value proposition for the Instana and the Turbonomics? Here is the comparison. Okay. Number one, AWS is the platform service. It is a building block. It's an incomplete product, and the business user cannot use it directly. And IBM Instana is a turnkey solution, ready to configure for your own system. And this is the SaaS solution. And AWS is the user is different. AWS is for the AWS developers. It's for the ISVs. And but IBM Instana and the Turbonomics is for the business user. It's for the reliability manager or the service workers. And the scope, AWS is AWS only. Typically AWS only. Even though maybe you can use the AWS technology for the other system, but typically it's AWS. But IBM solution as a SaaS solution, it can deploy in any platform. AWS Azure, GCP, IBM, and on-premise. And the skills, and for the AWS solution, you need the in-depth cloud technique skills and DevOps skills particularly. But for IBM solution, you only need the very basic cloud concepts with the business knowledge. So target is the business people. So my conclusion is for most of the business, and APM and ARM SaaS solution is a must-have. You must have to handle this kind of in hybrid environment. And however, if the ISV, if you want to develop the business product to sell, and then probably you just use the AWS original product. So this is a short comparison. So we understand the value proposition for this kind of the SaaS solution from the IBM or from other brand. And this is a Turbonomic solution, full stack. I get it from the Turbonomics website. As you can see, Turbonomics, previously we had the MVP use case. That is an oversimplified use case, target to the CPU only. Actually, in the real business situation, it is required to monitor not only the infrastructure, but also the application and the components in the middle, including the virtual machine and the container and the network, everything. So the Turbonomics do provide the user-friendly diagrams so that you can design the performance matrix or performance trees, from the top down, and then you make the decision and also the continuous to support it. So this is the overall business of the APM and ARM, and why it is important in today's enterprise. So now the question is, so what is the AIOps value proposition? Now we come to the previous diagram here. We set up the 60% and 25% as a threshold. Okay, over 60%, allocate another instance. Less than 25%, we need to eliminate one instance to save the resource. So why we set up this? So in the one option is it is based on the subject matter experts, reliability engineer set up this, right? But this is not the precise or the accurate predictive solution. The optimized way is to set up based on the research on the historic data. That is the AI come to the picture. So the Watson AI is in this page, including the collection of the mathematical models to understand the anomaly, understand the events, understand the matrix anomaly, and understand the topology. So after you understand especially the historic data, and then you can predict, okay, what kind of the allocation we need. For example, during the Thanksgiving break or during the Valentine's Day, what kind of the flower is really needed. So that means how many transactions, how many payloads typically system were received, and then so that we can predictively allocate the resource. So this is a value proposition for the AIOps. So far, we already go through the application monitoring. Then, based on the monitoring warnings, and then we get the application resource. The resource include indicating the matrix, including the computing resource, storage resource, network resource, and other API connection related resource, to handle the requirement. Now we come to the conclusion. The conclusion for this short presentation is we go through our IBM example, which is IBM product Instana, IBM product of Instana for the APM, and IBM product Turbonomics. Turbonomics is for the ARM, and also what's an AIOP, and the IT management application, for example, the ServiceNow. How can we put these four products together to address the enterprise questions? And especially the enterprise environment on the context of the hybrid cloud. They have the IBM cloud, they have the AWS cloud, and they deployed in different topologies. So this kind of the product suite, AIOps suite, is kind of emerging technology for the future, and to help the enterprise to resolve these sort of problems. Thank you.